Continue to fight long and hard together for free abortion on demand without apologies.
There is a baby on the road. You would jump on the road, stop the traffic to pick up the baby. I can't pick up the baby, but I can stop the traffic.
We need to have politicians who care about women's health and women's right to choose.
A baby's going to die. A baby's going to be killed. What do? You hand someone a leaflet about it? No, you block the door.
It's a 16-year-old girl who decides to terminate her pregnancy for whatever reason, or a 30-year-old whose baby's dying. That is a very personal thing. No one should butt in. Not a politician and not you.
She looked pained when she was born. She was born with her mouth open, and if I was confronted with it again, I could not do it again.
The period between 1914 to 1918, the world witnessed the Western powers dissipate 40 million lives, both military and civilian, in what is now referred to as World War I. World War II was even deadlier. An estimated total of 70 to 85 million people perished. The UN was established right after World War II with several aims ranging from preventing future wars to protecting human rights. The curious thing about human rights laws is that they only extend to those who are born. According to the World Health Organization, every year in the world there are an estimated 40 to 50 million abortions. This corresponds to approximately 125,000 abortions per day. At the time of recording, the abortions carried out in 2021 are over the 25 million mark. We still have 4 more months before the New Year celebrations. To give you a little perspective, 25 million is 6 times the global tally of fatalities by COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. Am I implying that abortions are more detrimental to human existence than both the world wars and the pandemic combined? Walk with me. Imagine you were injured in a car accident and paralyzed from the upper arms down. The doctors say you can be treated for a spinal cord injury using stem cells and implanted in the spinal cord at the site of the injury. Eager to regain mobility, you consent to the procedure. It takes a while before you heal and can realize any progress. After 3 years, MRI tests show that the cells indeed promoted the development of new blood cells and synapses, or connections between nerve cells. Hope floods your eyes. Slowly but steadily, you recover. You are paralyzed from your biceps down and had no finger movements, but sooner than you think, you could do exercises on a floor mat and walk with leg braces on a treadmill. It is such miracles that science is purposeful to work. Time, money, and ethics are what help science accomplish its objectives. But even noble desires are soon corrupted when ambitions for a Nobel Prize or those of going down in history as the greatest in your field creep inside your heart. Then it becomes very dangerous both for you and for humanity. Hence why I firmly believe that science should have a conscience. I've come by this conviction in the wake of the lab leak in Wuhan, an event which I'm certain the world will never be afforded the truth. I'm also now realizing how abortion clinics fit into the process of vaccine and therapeutic development. I can't help wondering if the COVID-19 vaccine miracle has been developed by carrying out tests on stem cell lines from fetal tissue. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Allow me to introduce to you Dr. Shinya Yamanaka, a Japanese stem cell researcher, winner of the Nobel Prize. On December 11, 2007, in an interview with the New York Times, he said, "When I saw the embryo, I suddenly realized there's such a small difference between it and my daughter's. I thought, we can't keep destroying embryos for our research. There must be another way." there's no way now to get around some use of embryos, but my goal is to avoid using them altogether. Now, ordinary netizens like you and me look at abortions through the peepholes of pro-life and pro-choice. Political statements tend to be blunt as far as piercing the heart goes.
Let's continue to fight long and hard together for free abortion on demand without apologies.
The unfortunate thing about bringing them up is that a proper conversation about the conundrum and how it should be resolved cannot be had.
I have 2 strikes. I'm black and I am a woman. And now I barely have rights. I don't have rights to my own uterus. I'm walking around with a uterus and I can't even say it's mine.
So I took it upon myself to look up what a man of science and conscience, a man who has the front row seat to stem cell research, has to say. And of course, there are very diverse views on this, even among intellectuals. But it takes people like Dr. Shinya to emphasize the essence of life in the embryo, because the pulse of any medical practice should be to save lives. And the photo of his daughters propped up on his office desk made him resolve to find a better way around the use of embryos for medical research. This is what you need to understand before you can appreciate Dr. Shinya's solution. Stem cells are special human cells that are able to develop into many different cell types. The word there is differentiation. When a stem cell divides, each new cell has the potential to either remain as a stem cell or to become another type of cell with a more specialized function, such as the muscle cell or a red blood cell or a brain cell. In some cases, they can also fix damaged tissues. Researchers believe that stem cell-based therapies may one day be used to treat serious illnesses such as paralysis and Alzheimer's disease. Let's dive in a little deeper. Stem cells in adults are found in select locations in the body, known as niches, such as those in the bone marrow or gonads. These types are referred to as adult stem cells. The other type of stem cells are those which form in the womb within 5 to 15 days of fertilization. These are referred to as embryonic stem cells. Unlike adult stem cells, embryonic stem cells cannot be harvested without killing the embryo. Embryonic stem cell research for development of vaccines and therapeutics require a constant supply of aborted fetuses. This is the ethical implication informing Dr. Shinya's dilemma. Not only him, but any member of good conscience within the science establishment. In honor of his 2 daughters, Dr. Shinya discovered a new stem cell method that actually reprograms ordinary cells, like skin cells, to revert into embryonic stem cell-like state.
He took a combination of 4 factors that normally only act together in the embryonic stem cell and inserted them into a skin cell. In a process we don't fully understand, the chromosomes began to unwind. As these reprogrammed cells replicate, they become more and more like embryonic stem cells until eventually they are indistinguishable. From this state, it can now be used to produce any cell in the body.
These stem cells are called induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPSCs, and are essentially no different than embryonic stem cells, with one exception: they do not require the killing of embryos. With the discovery of iPSCs, embryo-like stem cells can be derived from a patient's own cells, which carry the same genes and will not be rejected by the body, and more importantly, do not require the killing of embryos. The discovery of iPSCs has profoundly influenced the field of cell and gene therapy. However, 17 years later, the full potential of iPSCs is yet to be realized. It is this slow progress in science and medical research which often results in certain ethical compromises that aren't obvious on paper or to the public. Sometimes the scientific advances allow the ethical controversy to be avoided altogether. As Dr. Fauci is often quoted saying with regard to gain-of-function experiments and the potential of a viral outbreak, the benefits of such experiments and the resulting knowledge outweighs the risks. Therefore, as IPSC's research takes a backseat, fetal tissue remains the primary source for stem cells. Alto Charo, a leading bioethicist and professor of law and bioethics, wrote in a New England Journal of Medicine, "Every child who's been spared the risk and misery of chickenpox, rubella, or polio can thank the Nobel Prize recipients and other scientists who used fetal tissue in research, yielding the vaccines that protect us and give even the unvaccinated the benefit of herd immunity. This work has been going on for nearly a century, and the vaccines it produced have been in use nearly as long." This is the language the science establishment uses when pitching for government funding and grants. At one point, federal funds could not be used for embryonic stem cell research in the US. But in 2001, President Bush changed that when he adopted a new policy. The new policy allowed the federal government to support research on dozens of existing stem cell lines without sanctioning or encouraging the destruction of additional human embryos. Almost a decade later, on March 9, 2009, President Obama issued a new executive order revoking the former policy due to its limitations. Federal funding could now be used for embryonic stem cell research without regard for creation date and without regard for the future life of the embryo. By 2014, the National Institute of Health was funding grants and projects for human fetal tissue research up to $76 million to more than 50 universities, including Harvard, Stanford, and MIT. Remember, as with all things science, this research is entirely speculative. In fact, Obama later conceded that the potential benefit remains unknown, even with all the taxpayer dollars his administration poured into it. Also, embryonic stem cell research isn't all that necessary, as we're already able to develop therapeutics with adult stem cells. But stem cells from adults require much more in legal consent and are limited in supply as compared to stem cells from fetal tissue through legalized abortions. Federal funding for embryonic stem cell research came to a grinding halt mid-2019. The National Institute of Health detailed how President Donald Trump's administration would implement restrictions on the use of human fetal tissue in research starting in September the same year. The new paperwork requirements, along with a new lengthy ethics review, raised worries that many investigators would fail to land grants that rely on fetal tissue. No sooner had abortion rights opponents began to relish the victory than it was reversed by President Joe Biden to the relief of the science research community. Pro-life activists believe that this reflects a turn to poor ethics as well as poor science. Father Robert Murray of St. Anthony Catholic Church in Florence, South Carolina, even moved to deny Joe Biden communion over his abortion stance. Federal funding of embryonic stem cell research changes the debate from a moral one to a legal one. As it's been made crystal with COVID-19, although gain-of-function research is morally wrong, it's perfectly legal thanks to those we elect into office. The policies legalize what is intuitively problematic to the conscience, and this gives the opportunity for experimentations that might be detrimental to human lives. Private corporations can acquire fetal tissue samples for study or for supply by guiding their patients to consent to abortions. And this is where pro-lifers perhaps draw the line. They argue, for those individuals and companies that have no ethical qualms with their therapeutic killing of embryos, they have the legal freedom to pursue their research on their own time and their own dime. The objecting taxpayers need not foot the bill for their crimes.